With the mainstream media and news no longer cutting it for me, this past year with all the troubles of COVID has seen me watching more and more YouTube, with anything Thailand related more than most grabbing my attention. And it would, as I used to live there myself, working from both Bangkok and Pattaya, with the odd bit of travelling as well to most of Thailand's neighbouring countries. These past months especially has seen more and more YouTube coverage of Thailand, both good and bad. But both the good and bad that I have watched to the very end have still managed somehow to educate me and teach me one or two things I really did not know, like the island of Koh Samet, for example, once having a full working gold mine, or the other random example about the marine bar disco in Pattaya having a section of a room just for ladyboys, with their own bar at one end, with a separate bar area at the other end, where the rest of the freelancer girls used to hang out. Well, I never. And just the tip of the iceberg, but an interesting one at that, of many hours of mainly Pattaya and Bangkok viewing, which helped take my mind away from things, especially when things were really bad, with first my health and then work and financial worries like many others, all connected to this pandemic. I found those times between 4 and 5 in the morning were the worst, when your awake mind really does point out those things to you you have swept under the carpet and just tried to ignore, hoping they will go away, with good old YouTube with every subject there under the sun covered coming to the rescue and helping me relax. So back to the Thailand vloggers, to be precise. Before I mention or fully introduce my top 3, who this past year at least have kept me sane, I feel I really do have to point 2 other Thailand vloggers out to you who I think are also exceptional, like Ride for Kicks by an American expat called Lucas, now based in Pattaya, who, as well as covering very original and entertaining topics, not only local to him, but does some very good Thailand motorcycle travelogues. Together with his nice voiceovers, all his video productions are top-notch and very impressive to watch, and a good advert as well for Thailand. Thailand Bound, on the other hand, as well as doing the odd Thailand travelogues, and more recently a clever but very dark series of comic strips which you must watch. The main niche they have here on YouTube is covering the relationship stories, good and bad, from foreigners trying to tie the knot, pun not intended, with Thai ladies who more often than not have worked in the bar entertainment environments at some stage. Peter from England, together with his co-host Simon, have of course a lot of experience under their belts of travelling, living and working in Thailand, and they are just the type of chaps who we would all like to sit next to on any long-haul flight, or to just sit and chat to while waiting in that airport lounge. So to my top 3 Thailand vloggers at the moment, starting with number 1. Bangkok Diaries Thailand, hosted by that friendly guy in the pub, who we will all have met at some time, who will talk to anyone about any subject under the sun. So introducing Dave, an expat Irishman who loves his beer and lives right next to a klan or canal in a part of Bangkok where most foreigners and tourists never venture. Married to a white-collar professional Thai, living together with his young son and his Thai mother-in-law and other Thai relatives who make an appearance from time to time. Practically every vlog of his gives a fascinating insight of living and grinning and bearing the real Thailand, yes, the real Thailand of language and cultural differences, the odd misunderstandings, Bangkok flooding, where allegedly one year a 2-headed black serpent snake swam into his flooded living room. Despite warts and all, together with the very good and bad sometimes portrayed, Dave still loves the country culture and Thai way of life, and I really love his honesty and sometimes ingenuous nature, where some might say he sometimes crosses a line, but I still love this channel to bits.
Thai car park attendants with whistles and megaphones. If they're not blowing whistles, they're blowing into, I was going to use an adjective there, blowing into a megaphone. I mean, if that was in Ireland, he'd wind up with that megaphone in a place where the sun doesn't shine.
Number 2 on my list, and despite who he is, a more recent contributor to YouTube, Pattaya related, is someone who I really have so little in common with, but who I so much would have liked to have had as a buddy or a friend to hang out with when I was around his age too, working in Sin City, Pattaya. A slave to Facebook and absolutely obsessed with social media, which I am not, a successful entrepreneur, very ambitious as well, which again I am certainly not, who trusts some ties in business which I could never do, and seems to have more energy than I ever did even at 21. Introducing here Bryan Flowers, also from the UK. Why do I like this guy, owner of several girly bars in Pattaya? Yeah, why do I like this guy so much, who every day promises to answer all the comments made to his YouTube channel but never does? Who name drops, like showing off his Mercedes car, which they say, or should I say Bryan Flowers constantly says, to own one is a very high status symbol in Thailand. But I bet it's not an S-Class though, one of the best cars in the world to drive in my opinion. Yes, the Bryan Flowers, one and only YouTube channel, by that name is fucking brilliant, I would say, if I was piss drunk in one of his yobbo looking bars. Where do I start? Coming across as kind, trustworthy, reliable and very clever indeed, with his head screwed on properly, I like this person very much with his dry sense of humour, but not as dry as mine, believe me. Yet his still makes me smile and even laugh out loud too on the odd occasion, and someone also who is a little self-conscious too of his voice. Well, he obviously hasn't heard mine. Married to a Thai, with his children both going to private schools. Here on one hand we have a family man in the prime time of his life, living in a large house in Pattaya suburbs, with expensive wallpaper in the living room and a lovely looking swimming pool outside.
I'm the man that knows it all, and then I just Google stuff. I'm getting bitten by mosquitoes there, just sitting outside near the pool.
And on the other hand, called unfairly by some perhaps, the biggest pimp in Pattaya. I don't know the pimp bit, but he well may be the biggest owner of bars in Pattaya, as well as being co-owner of some Thai media news channels, several very successful websites and a Muay Thai gym academy with his own fight gear and branding, and all at such a young age too. A generous giver to the local charities as well, allegedly. I wonder how many times those insults have gone through his head, as in his other life as well he pulls up in his Mercedes in one of the international school car parks his children attend, to attend a parents' meeting or an end-of-term concert perhaps of another charity event. If you are interested enough in what really goes on in trying to own and run a business in Pattaya, and what really goes on in this town, not for everyone's taste though, I think this is a gem of a channel.
I teach orgasm seminars, BJ seminars, how to teach women how to do BJs. They're all females doing it. I think if it was males teaching that, it would have been deleted. But they have all of these tantric sessions and teachings and stuff, and there's a lot of people that come here to find themselves, so there's a lot of manipulation going on. If you mention paying for sex in a place like this, everyone will just look at you like you're a piece of shite. The loyal supporters are often the guys egging you on. I've seen guys egging people on to, you know, give me issues, and they're not a loyal supporter. They're actually a shit stirrer. But we'll move on to that next one, shall we?
Last but not least, number 3 YouTube channel on my list is Edward Sweeney's excellent channel. And just like the other vloggers already mentioned, there is no pussyfooting around here. If we need to be told something, Edward Sweeney tells it like it is.
Fucking Christ. This was the first thing that I noticed about Kuta Beach. What can I say about this? The only worthwhile thing I can say is that in future, I will make damn sure that I dispose of plastic carefully, recycle it. Okay, so I've already established that Bali's in the rainy season this time of year, and the beaches can be a bit of a shithole. So what's next? I heard Bali was cheap. Well, I've got to give it its due in the value for money department. Budget hotels, food and drink are all good value in Bali, generally cheaper than in Thailand, probably similar to Cambodia.
So covering not just Pattaya and Thailand, to whet our appetites even more, his travelogues cover most of the neighbouring countries as well, usually to somewhere with a nice tropical beach. With most of his subscribers and followers at a guess being blue-collar working class, mostly from the UK, making up those tourists to Pattaya, fondly known as the 2 or 3 week millionaires, from this to this, surely gives all those white van man, multi-drop drivers and taxi drivers and warehouse men amongst us that little boost to work a bit harder and save a bit extra for that next trip away.
Oh. Yes, it's cold.
And in case you didn't know already, and more for the benefit of those new to spending a lot of time now watching YouTube, I will use Edward Sweeney's channel as an example of how to access any past and present YouTube videos. Enjoy.